The gods and heroes of ancient India remain part of the culture today. But the Hindus themselves consider them not fictional, but historical characters. Once they all lived on earth together with people. But who were the gods of India? And why do the temples dedicated to them amaze with the perfection of the architectural, engineering, and technical level? Who built this and why? Take a look at these footage. They were filmed in southeast India at Anantapur. A group from Russia decided to conduct an experiment. Check whether it is possible to stretch the thinnest scarf under the column installed in the Indian temple of Lapakshi. There are 70 stone columns in total, but only one seems to float above the floor.
Does she rely on anything? Yes, she doesn't lean. Come on from the other side, stretch. Focus, bite. But there she just clings a little, that's for that upper thing. And she doesn't let her fall.
The researchers determined that a multi-ton column has one single point of support, thanks to which it does not lose balance. But how did you manage to achieve such fantastic accuracy? Who was capable of such calculations? And these basalt columns polished to a shine are in the Romappa temple in southern India. Look at the technique of making the finest carving. How could such perfection be achieved without a cutter and modern technology? How did you manage to create through holes of a few millimeters? In addition, these holes are curved inside. Neither a drill nor a needle passes through them, but only a flexible wire. How did the craftsman manage to do such jewelry work in hard basalt? The researchers found another shocking feature. Speakers make different sounds. How is this possible? So that basalt retains the integrity of the crystal lattice, and the quality of the product is not affected. Temperatures up to 1250 degrees Celsius were required. How could it be obtained using wood or even coal? It was necessary to supply oxygen to the blast furnace. Judging by the number of buildings in India, there were entire factories for lithium from basalt and granite. This means that their age is quite high. Because metal also has a shelf life, it is natural that the stone is stored much longer. Could machines and industrial technology have been used in ancient India? The version sounds fantastic. But look at the foundation of Romappa's temple. He rises on the platform. And what is most amazing? In this pillow, a mixture of powdered granite, river sand, cane sugar and a binder was found, the composition of which has not yet been determined. Such a poor point made it possible to withstand the most powerful earthquakes. Moreover, the roof of the structure was covered with artificial blocks. Examination carried out in an industrial laboratory in Hyderabad showed that the material has a porous structure. Such bricks are incredibly light and even float perfectly in water. Who created these secret building materials? And what were the objects erected from them actually intended for? The Hoyseveshwar temple in Karnataka raises even more questions. Evaluate the level of processing of these 4-meter columns. They even left concentric marks on their surface. These appear during the rotation of the lathe. But what size should the machine be? And who used such super powerful technologies in ancient India? Before you is a temple to the god Surya in the state of Orissa. It was plundered from the beginning by the Mulls and then by the Portuguese. But even during the British rule, a fantastic picture was observed here. At dawn, the entire structure rose above the ground. It turned out that at the base of the temple there were metal beams up to 18 meters long. And another magnet was located at the base of the temple. Thanks to a system of super magnets, the stone structure rose above the ground. British experts tried to find out how all this worked due to solar energy. But they never managed to recreate the ancient technology. Another mystery of the ancient Indian builders. What alloy was used to create an iron column installed in the vicinity of Old Delhi? For 1,600 years of its existence, it has avoided corrosion. The obelisk weighing 6.5 tons rises 7 meters. The column goes underground for the same length. How, without industrial technology, was it possible to clean iron to such an extent that it did not undergo oxidation and rust? Who was it for? Where did the technology in ancient India come from that is not inferior to modern, but even superior? And why is official science hiding the truth about the past of ancient Bharata? Before you is a stone bas relief from the temple of Hoyslyashvara, located in the southwest of India. What are these strange headdresses on these people? What were they intended for? The researchers also turned their attention to cuffed gloves. Some of them have strange tube wires connected to spheres placed behind the figure's shoulders. Who were the ancient sculptors portraying? According to one of the shocking hypotheses, images of representatives of an ancient space civilization have been preserved in India. Spaceships once arrived on our planet. The version sounds fantastic. But look at this grand building. The Chand Bori well has been preserved in the state of Rajasthan. It impresses with its size and decoration. The steps go down more than 30 meters. According to the official history of the legend, this is how water flowed here. And, as it were, as it filled up, people could go down in the less water, the longer they went down. And down there they got water. But why make it so difficult? Overcome numerous flights and stairs just to get water. Was it worth building a gigantic underground structure for this? The researchers noticed that the structure of Chand Bori consists of 7 floors. In the center is not just a well, but a full-fledged mine. The pipe is lined with brickwork and lined with sandstone. According to one of the internal hypotheses, a technical object of antiquity was once located on the territory of Rajasthan. This is a takeoff shaft for spacecraft. Later, the technical structure was turned into a temple, where they began to worship those who once flew to Earth. Moreover, texts with technical descriptions of aircraft have been preserved in India. Look, Shakuna Vimana is like a bird with wings and a tail. He could hover in the air like a helicopter. The 3-tiered Tripura Vimana could move not only through the air, but also on the ground. Rukma Vimana, a cone-shaped craft similar to modern docking space capsules. In flight, he remained silent. According to this fantastic hypothesis, it was the stellar crew that arrived on Earth thousands of years ago that was represented in the pantheon of the gods of ancient India. Look, the goddess Kali has always been depicted with many arms. Maybe this is a completely accurate description of what he saw, and such creatures actually visited our planet. Krishna, Rama and Shiva in Hinduism have always been customary to portray with blue skin. It is generally accepted that this is how their heavenly origin was conveyed in ancient India. However, there is another explanation. On the bas-reliefs, it is no coincidence that there are figures in spacesuits. The alien gods could not breathe earthly air for a long time. Their anatomy was different from ours. According to this version, the famous Indian god Ganesha had little in common with the earthly elephant. It's just that the appearance of his spacesuit resembled an elephant's trunk to Earthlings. From here came the recognizable image of this member of the alien team. In India, They believe that the ancient gods gave people the knowledge that allowed them to create a civilization. At first, sutras, hymns, Puranas were transmitted only orally, and in later times they were written down in Sanskrit in the form of a treatise. Rigvedas, Samaveds, Yajurvedas, and Atharvaveds. Moreover, the gods left accurate information about the structure of the galaxy and the universe. And modern science finds confirmation of these data only in our days. Recently, scientists from the universities of Bologna and Verona put forward a bold hypothesis. According to her, our universe is someone's organism. It's hard to imagine, but there is evidence. Look, the galaxies of the universe are very similar to the neural network of the human brain. Both systems have long fibers and knots in between. And 70% of the mass consists of components that play a passive role. This is water in the brain and dark matter in space. In addition, if the birth of a cell in the human body and the death of a star in space are considered on the same scale, identical images are obtained. Incredibly, the origin of the universe from the body of the gods is also written in ancient Indian manuscripts. There, the creator of the current universe, Brahma, was born from a lotus flower grown from the navel of the god Vishnu. A huge statue of Vishnu cast in gold. Countless jewelry. Chests filled with gold coins. This treasure has already been called the largest in history. It was discovered during a revision in the Indian temple Padmanabhasvami. 5 vaults were opened, and 2 more remained unexplored. The priests of the temple said that the god Vishnu himself sealed the sanctuary, and entry is prohibited. Padmanabhasvami is a revered temple in the state of Kerala. It stands at the crossroads of trade routes. For centuries, Rajas and merchants have donated lavish gifts here. The treasures found are valued at $22 billion. And these shots were taken by residents of the village of Paramalapadu in southeast India. Look, a whole temple dedicated to god Nageshwara was hidden under the ground. The sanctuary was buried under a layer of sand and silt when the Penna River changed its course, and with it, numerous precious relics. Now they find places where there were burials of objects in worship of God in temples. But where did the Indian gods disappear to? Why did they leave the earth? And what happened to ancient Bharata? A kingdom that, according to the manuscripts, occupied not only the territory of Hindustan, but also other lands. And these are terrible archival photographs, not from Nazi concentration camps. This is the population of India during the period of British rule. While the English crown was exporting the wealth of India, the inhabitants of the peninsula were dying of hunger, epidemics, and poverty.
The British Empire did everything necessary to inflict colossal damage on the population of what was then India.
In the late 70s of the 19th century, more than 10 million people died from hunger in India. The terrible famine that engulfed the country at the beginning of the 20th century brought no less victims. And in the 40s, the famine caused by the colonial policy of Britain claimed the lives of 5 million Indians. Why India, despite all the trials and hardships, continues to develop so actively? Its population is growing, and Indian culture conquers one country after another. Write your opinion on this matter. Subscribe to the channel and see you in the next episode.